Good afternoon, and welcome to today's program of Voices from Our Schools. I'm your host, Kimberly Stender, and with me today we have two phenomenal University of Massachusetts students. Two students who have formed a vital volunteer network, which is very evident in our schools. So, without a moment's notice, I'd like to introduce you to Sam Mardell and Kurt Schultz, founders of the UMASS UCAN Volunteer Network. So guys, welcome to the show today. I appreciate you coming out here. So this UMASS UCAN Volunteer Network started when you were freshmen, just over 2 years ago when you arrived here in Amherst. And it's really grown into something phenomenal. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this before. And we really owe a lot to you and also to Seamus, the other founder who could not be here today. But I want to give you the opportunity to tell our audience a little bit about yourselves, where you're from, what brought you to UMass, what attracted you to the University of Massachusetts campus, and what possessed you to want to start this volunteer network. So Kurt, would you like to start?
Yeah, so I'm from Northborough, Mass. I toured UMass when I was trying to figure out what college I wanted to attend. It was a research institution, and since I'm interested in the sciences right away, that's what attracted me. UMass also offers something known as a BDIC major, where you can construct your own major. And something I liked about that was, you can see that in practice, in the field, during a career, everything's interdisciplinary, and it's not just one discipline working. There's a lot of collaboration, and BDIC gives you that opportunity to pick from multiple departments in order to develop a major. And so I'm studying cognitive neuroscience, and being a junior now at UMass, it's great having that opportunity to kind of cherry pick what courses I want to take.
So I'm from Cambridge, Mass, and I chose UMass because I was looking at mostly smaller schools, but then I came here and I just loved it. I talked to a lot of students who went here, a lot of faculty. And Kurt mentioned the strong sciences in the BDSC program. That's also what attracted me. So Kurt and I lived together on a floor freshman year, which was a residential academic program. It's called BioTap. So we were in the same classes, which is how we got to know each other. And Seamus as well was in that class. So I decided to come here, and I'm loving it. It's great.
Oh, good. Well, welcome to Amherst. It's great to have you guys here. It's students like yourself that really can change our community for the better. So we truly appreciate all the great things that you've done over the course of these past 2 years. So you decided one night, I'm assuming, to get involved in the schools as volunteers. I know actually, that you volunteered a lot in your hometowns, in different organizations and whatnot. And so now that you're here in Amherst, you wanted to continue this work. So what prompted you to come up with the UCAN Volunteer Network?
Yeah, so it was almost like a natural rhythm. We volunteered in high school a lot. Now we're in college. Why should that stop us in any way? So Sam, Seamus, and myself had went into the Amherst schools, and really with no intention except being able to volunteer. And so we met with the principals from the elementary schools, the middle school, the high school, and just talking to them, saying we were interested in volunteering. Little did we know, they were very responsive to have us to volunteer, but also said that, listen, we have like a lot of volunteer positions available for even more college students to be able to volunteer. We said, all right, we can definitely volunteer, but why not find other like-minded students that want to give back, and try to make it a sort of pathway for them to be able to do so as well. And so that was basically our kind of inception period, and we realized, all right, let's try to gauge a response from students and find out if they'd be interested in volunteering as well. And like Sam mentioned, we all lived in the same floor freshman year. We literally brute force kind of went door to door to the students, said, hey, would you be interested in volunteering in the Amherst schools? And gauging a response was tremendous with how many students really were interested in volunteering.
And that was evident at the first orientation session.
Yeah.
They kind of knocked down the doors and they wanted to help, and that was a wonderful thing. So coincidentally, my position came into being as the volunteer coordinator, and the three of you were sent in my direction.
Yeah, we were very lucky to have that too.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy how that all worked out. But we ended up having that meeting in Starbucks that afternoon.
Yeah.
And we devised a plan where we would set up an orientation session and see, how many students would be interested. And then it was my job to kind of look at each school and determine where volunteer needs were evident. And so we kind of came up with a great structure. You provided the volunteers and the Amherst schools provided the opportunities. And since then, it's been very successful. I think you started out with maybe 20 volunteers.
Yeah.
And now how many do you have in your network?
Probably in our network, we've had over 150 students, probably 150 students that have volunteered. And I think this semester, we're already starting out with about 60, 65 students that are volunteering in the public schools.
And we also just have like a huge database of students who have volunteered in the past or volunteer now or maybe have a busy schedule a semester and can't volunteer, but who can help out with big community events where they need lots of volunteers to come help out, and they just come out for a day and help out for a few hours.
Right, so that was like Winterfest or the
Halloween
Halloween party, and then just the big block party.
Exactly, yeah.
Your group was instrumental in setup and, kind of filling some positions during the event itself, and then the takedown as well.
Yeah, and definitely have to give credit to Mike Alfopoulos and Sam Williams, who we picked up as programming officers with the intention that there are probably students that want to do these one-time volunteer events, and they've been great in like coordinating those and getting volunteers to attend those.
Right, and in the greater community, not just in the schools.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great. You young men are very impressive. You've caught the attention of a lot of people in our community, and at UMass as well. So again, we thank you for your organization and your coordination in all this, because without you, UCAN would not have started. So UCAN, what does that mean? What does that acronym stand for?
Well, like you were saying, we had like a late night brainstorm session where Kurt, Seamus, and I were trying to come up with a name for our program, and we settled on University Community Academic Network, which stands for UCAN, and we liked it because it sort of had our message in the name. You can volunteer, so really anyone can go out and volunteer and get involved with the community. And so that's what we've been all about.
And it really reflects our model that even if you have a busy schedule, if you have a lot of classes you need to take, you still, if you want to volunteer on a regular basis, we're going to make it possible for you to do so.
And you do. I mean, a lot of your volunteers are very active in our Amherst after-school programs. So at each elementary school, there's a real vibrant program now and a real need for volunteers. Also during the school day, you have a lot of tutors that you send in our direction, whether they be in the elementary school, at the middle school, or the Academic Achievement Center at the high school. So there's a place for everyone. And also, this year we've kind of branched out, and now we're looking more into our arts programs, arts and music, where we get the UMass students in and really make a go and make those good connections and mentors. So, again, keep those volunteers coming.
Yeah, and I think something that's really impressed us is looking at the university and the student body. I mean, we have us 3 officers who were able to start this network, but it wouldn't be anything if we didn't have the volunteers themselves. And I think that's definitely, you can commend the students for, really being wanting to volunteer and give back to the community. Even when they have extensive schedules and really not much time to give back, they still find ways to do so.
Yeah,
It's also grown so quickly because the volunteers who go into the Amherst Public Schools have had such great experiences, and there's lots of different types of opportunities. So the schools have done a great job of helping UMass volunteers fit in well and have a great time volunteering. And so they tell their friends, and more people want to join, and it's just been great. So
it's a nice word of mouth.
Yeah.
And it's nice because at these orientation sessions, and I think we've had maybe 10 over the past 2 years, maybe more. I really commend you guys for getting the word out, marketing, really being tech savvy. You have a Facebook page, you guys tweet, no stone is left unturned in the quest to gain more volunteers. And the volunteers that do come in, we do a fairly extensive orientation where you spell out the program, we talk about the schools, we do their CORI background checks, which are the required criminal background checks of all volunteers. So once the students clear those, then they're free to volunteer. And it's been a very, I would say, efficient process.
Yeah. No, I think we've gotten very good at running these orientations, and it's a great way to help us sort of figure out what students always have questions and ideas in these orientations too, and it makes us think like what are we doing, and how to improve our program.
Right, how to fine-tune everything.
Yeah, how to fine-tune everything.
Exactly.
And how to make it easier for these kids who are coming in and want to volunteer. So.
Yeah, and like speaking of word of mouth, when students attend these orientations, I think we really find that they tell their friends about the opportunities, and we've kind of set it up so that we turn to the student and ask them, like, what is your schedule like? What are your interests? And then we collaborate with you to kind of look at all the volunteer opportunities and match them with things that work for their schedule and their preferences.
Right, and we're learning to think outside the box on the public school standpoint. So not only is it academic tutoring or like the obvious after school programs, but now we have some clubs that are forming where we need mentors in the middle school for their after school clubs. There's a Lego club at Wildwood.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of great that people are thinking, you know, teachers and program directors are thinking a little outside the box too, or where can we fit a volunteer in? So it's been great. So I know the group has grown tremendously. I know, I've seen it. And this past year, we pulled you into a partnership summit that we had between the UMass, the campus, and all the departments, the chancellor's office and whatnot, and our schools. So the district administrators were there, Maria Garrick, our superintendent, was there. And at that meeting, you met someone who sort of brought you to the next level in terms of visibility on campus. Would you like to tell our audience about that experience? Because I think that's really propelled you to great things.
Yeah, so I think it was during January of this year, we had gotten invited to this summit, and so I had gone on behalf of UCAN, and attending it was great. I mean, there were a lot of like community leaders there, and I think I was only one of maybe I think the only student there.
You were the only student there.
I was the only student there, and so yeah, that was definitely a great experience. Just be surrounded with those people, those movers and shakers, and Dr. Anne-Marie Seifert had actually approached me. She's the Associate Vice Chancellor of Student Activities and Involvement at UMass, and she said, listen guys, I've heard about what you've done with UCAN and the volunteer network. We're very impressed. It's great you can get so many students helping out in the schools. How can UMass now help you guys to further it? And I mean, when I heard that, I was so receptive to the idea and just excited that UMass was recognizing us and really wanting to push the bar and really make it the most effective and high quality kind of network possible. And she asked if we would be willing to work during this past summer on campus for the Center for Student Development and really kind of flesh out this network and work with UMass administration to make it the best it could be.
And so you also had the support of Nancy Buffone and Lisa Queenan, who were instrumental in university events and external relations. So you are on their radar as well. So that's very helpful. But this summer, you looked at UMass and ways that students could volunteer, not just with UCAN, but in other organizations on campus as well.
Yeah, so exactly. Coming into UMass freshman year, Sam, Seamus, and I kind of just intuitively just noticed this niche on campus that wasn't being filled, and that was students that have a lot of things to do and have a busy schedule, but still want to volunteer on a weekly basis. And that's why we created the network as a conduit to allow students to get into the schools to give back. And looking at that model, we realized, well, you know what? We should be turning out to the student, asking them what are their schedule and what are their interests. And taking that model, we've looked at all the volunteer opportunities as a whole at UMass and noticed that although they are doing great things, and we can't deny that, there are a lot of separate silos on campus, and they don't really interact with one another. And so Seamus and I, this past summer, started something known as Volunteer UMass. And it's still in the beginning stages, but from gauging students' responses, it seems like there's going to be a lot of interest. And the whole idea behind it is it's going to be a clearinghouse for all the volunteer opportunities. So we're not changing anything that's going on in terms of the organizations themselves, because they're doing a tremendous job. We're going to make it a clearinghouse in the sense that students will maybe the ideas are a student will go online, and we're throwing out either volunteer.umass.edu or umass.edu/volunteer. So it's very simple URLs to learn and remember, and students will literally just go online, they'll put in their schedules, their interest, and it will come out with organizations that they could actually do and would fit with the time that they have and their preferences. And with that, we hope to increase accessibility for all volunteer opportunities for students. So we found that maybe right now is a student will have to, by brute force, really go to each organization and find out if they can do it. If they get turned away, they might get discouraged. This way, it kind of streamlines the process by going online and figuring out right away what opportunities are available to them.
So you're essentially creating a roadmap for all maybe incoming freshmen or orientation students, or even upperclassmen to get involved and to have this what's the word I'm looking for, guys? Help me out.
It's a process, so that so right when they come in freshman year, a tool, exactly. So they know right away that volunteering during their undergraduate years is going to be more than accessible, and it really just is on them as to whether or not they're going to give back, as opposed to any limitations on the side of the university. And that's why, I think these are definitely great steps forward.
It is.
And it's great to get students, to make it easy for students to get involved, especially at first. One thing that we've found to be really happy about, of our volunteers, one of our best successes is that we've had some students go into the schools maybe once a week for a couple hours. And then they build relationships with the teachers in the schools and are then able to go in maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And we've had students get jobs in the Amherst Public Schools because we were able to link them to the schools, and just getting rid of all the red tape, the initial step of getting involved with a volunteering group and making that step easy has let these students have all these new opportunities and get more involved, and that's been great. So
it has been. And you send high caliber students to us, so that says a lot about your characters as well.
But at the same time, though, on your end, we have to give you a lot of credit, especially with how easy it has been to contact you, and with you placing the students in the schools. It's been a two-way street, and it just really has made it such an effective process.
Yeah, I agree, and it's easy to work with you guys as well. So over the course of the past 2 years, UCAN has been featured in some local newspapers. I think June of 2011.
Yep.
Nick Grabbe, your freshman year, Nick Grabbe, who works for the Bulletin and the Gazette, did a rather large article on volunteering in the public schools where UCAN was featured. And that really gave you a lot of nice publicity. And I think that caught the attention of Nancy Buffone and Lisa Queenan. And that's kind of what drew you into certain circles. And then after that, I think UMass approached you to do a promotional video for them that may be used with orientation or some kind of recruiting, so that kids know that when they come to UMass, they'll have these opportunities to volunteer. And then most recently, Kurt, you were a featured speaker at the community breakfast back in August. Was it the very end of August, beginning of September?
Yep.
So you spoke in front of 400, 500 community leaders about volunteering in the schools. So that itself is an honor. I don't think many students have had that opportunity, and UCAN was chosen, and that says, again, a lot about the organization that you've created.
Yeah, so that was a great opportunity, and like you said, there were hundreds of community leaders, and if I had to spend the time talking to each one, I could have been there for just so long. But again, I was able to go up there and speak in front of everyone about UCAN and the efforts that we have done. And you could just tell, you gauge the response of the audience. They just love to know that students were going out into the local community and giving back in ways they could. So that was definitely, just an awesome opportunity.
It was kind of epic for Town and Gown. This is, UMass, this is what they want, and this is what you've created. So it's been really, really great. So Sam, over the summer you did something very unique.
Yeah,
but on the
well,
other
yeah.
end of the state.
I wasn't able to stick around in Amherst, unfortunately. I had a job. I was working back in Cambridge at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Which I guess, I mean, at my job, I'm able to attend some lectures that they hold, which is always really interesting. I get to hear some awesome ideas about education and bring some of them back to UCAN.
Yes.
So it's a lot of fun.
And you heard our friend Dr. Ron Ferguson. You were kind of
Yes.
involved in that seminar where some of our district leaders attended.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of, the Ed School runs programs where educators from all over the world come for week-long or two-week-long programs. And so I was helping with the planning of these events. So I got to sit in on some lectures, which was a great experience.
I learn all about coordination and planning.
Yeah.
Welcome to my world. So let's talk about UCAN in the future. So you've been at UMass for 2 years. It went by very quickly.
Yes.
You have less than 2 years to go now before you graduate. How do you envision the future of UCAN?
Yeah, so right now we're in the process, it's kind of 2 steps. One, we're trying to sort of streamline what we do to make it easy for people to take over. Because we know we're pretty good now at giving orientations and matching volunteers to positions, which you've been a big help with this semester. But we want to make that easy for someone else to come in and look at the program and know exactly what we do and have worksheets and sort of templates available that are really easy to look at and see what's going on. And then we also need to recruit younger students, freshmen coming in to sort of and teach them how to take over and look at students who are coming in who have leadership skills that will apply to running UCAN. And so that's really what we're working on right now.
Yeah, and that really touches upon kind of looking at the back end and with the officers and the structure and how we're going to go about making that more efficient. Looking at the front end too, a big impetus that recently came about was the Commonwealth Honors College has chosen us as their community service group for this year, and we're very fortunate for that, and we think that's really going to slingshot us in the right direction. They've offered their facilities, copies for all the papers that we need for orientation. They've marketed us on their website. They've just really been a big help to furthering the UCAN model and the UCAN vision of placing as many students as possible in opportunities available in the schools.
That's amazing. So are you looking to identify incoming freshmen or young sophomores who will kind of rise up within the organization and become the leaders once you depart?
Yeah. Actually, just recently, we've had a sophomore, Neha Chopra Tandon, who's going to be our public relations chair. And so she's going to work on, increasing the visibility of UCAN on campus and making sure that at least every student knows that there is a bridge from UMass to the local town and volunteering in the schools and in the town in general. So she's really going to be a facilitator of increasing that awareness. Also, actually, we're planning on maybe having students that show an interest in having leadership positions lead some upcoming orientations. We can be there to watch them, but if they experience it and go through it themselves, they can really get a feel for what it's like to lead this network.
Well, I think, as you matriculate in these next 2 years through UMass, I think your legacy will be that you created this footprint, something that really has never been done before, and I think will enjoy longevity for years to come, because we could always use the volunteers. I know AEF is also, they have some events that you were a part of, and I know Family Outreach is starting to think about events that we'll definitely need volunteers for. So we're always keeping you gentlemen in our loop, that's for sure. And we're going to close in about a minute. So do you have any parting words or thoughts or appeals to those who are watching who may want to get involved and volunteer?
It's just been a really great experience for us, as well as we think for everyone who's volunteered from UMass, and it's been great working with the schools. And if you are interested in volunteering and you're watching, you can email us at ucanvolunteer.com. It's ucanvolunteer@gmail.com.
Put that up on the screen.
Yeah, and we'll get back to you and get you involved.
And you will get back.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Kurt, how about any closing thoughts from you?
Yeah, so like you had mentioned, this generation has been really, these past couple of years, really been the footprint for this volunteer network and getting students into the schools. But I think Sam would definitely agree that we're looking forward to enlarging that footprint, really growing a structure that is going to continue to match students with positions. And I think we're really looking forward to handing it over to a younger generation that has learned from what we've done well, from what we can work on. And so we're just excited to seeing this second generation of UCAN.
Well, I'm excited too. I'm proud to be a part of it, and I thank you again for sending such great volunteers into our schools and into our community. I think also with the support of the Chancellor's Office and the whole of UMass behind you, you really can't go wrong. So thanks, guys. I appreciate you coming out today to be on Voices from Our Schools. And again, thank you so much for tuning in today to watching our show. I'm Kimberly Stender, and I hope you have a great day.